Ladies and gentlemen, as we stand at the beginning of a new year, we find ourselves with a fresh opportunity, a chance to realign, to refocus, and to start anew with a sense of purpose. This year, let us embrace the truth that God has a divine plan for each of us, and His blessings are intricately woven into the fabric of our lives, designed to propel us toward the fulfillment of that plan. God's blessings are not a matter of mere chance or random events. They are intentional, purposeful, and carefully orchestrated by the Creator of the universe. In order to walk in the fullness of what God has for us, we must first understand that His blessings are directly tied to His purpose for our lives. God's intentions for your life are not based on circumstance or happenstance. From the moment you were conceived, God set a path before you, a path filled with opportunities, growth, and transformation. His blessing is not something that arrives just by chance or for fleeting moments of happiness. It is a deliberate choice, a part of His overarching plan to see you flourish, to see you succeed, and to see you become the person He has always intended for you to be. He is not a random God who blesses indiscriminately. He is a deliberate Creator who blesses according to His divine purpose. It is essential for us to recognize that God's blessings are tied to His will for our lives. These blessings are not meant solely for our enjoyment or personal gain. Yes, God desires to bless us, but those blessings have a higher purpose. They are part of a larger plan that includes both our personal growth and the advancement of His kingdom. In the pursuit of His blessings, we must remain mindful of His larger vision for us and not simply focus on the material, momentary aspects of life that we may desire. The blessings that God pours into our lives have a transformative effect. They are meant to bring growth, maturity, and understanding. God's blessing is not just about what we receive in the natural. It is about what He is developing in us spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. The blessings He gives us are meant to shape us into the people who can carry the weight of the responsibilities He has placed before us. He blesses us so that we can grow in wisdom, in character, and in ability to fulfill the calling He has entrusted to us. Every blessing is meant to draw us closer to His heart and to help us become more aligned with His purpose. When we acknowledge that God's blessings are tied to His purpose, we also recognize that His blessings are abundant and multifaceted. They are not limited to financial prosperity or material success, though those can be part of God's blessing. His blessings include peace in the midst of chaos, joy in times of hardship, strength when we are weary, wisdom when we are uncertain, and the ability to impact the lives of others. When we step into the fullness of God's blessing, we understand that these blessings are meant to be shared. They are not for us alone. God blesses us so that we can be a blessing to others. However, in order to receive God's blessings and understand their true significance, we must first come to grips with His sovereignty and His perfect timing. Blessings do not always come in the form or the time we expect, but we must trust that God's timing is perfect. Sometimes blessings are delayed because God is preparing us to receive them. At other times, blessings may not appear to be blessings at all, but are in fact lessons, opportunities, or growth that will lead to even greater blessings in the future. Trusting God's timing is a key element in receiving and recognizing His blessings. We must not rush the process, but instead wait with faith and patience for His blessings to unfold in the way He has designed them. As you enter this year, I urge you to reflect on God's purpose for your life. Do not be distracted by the noise of the world or the pressures of time. Instead, focus on the truth that God has already set blessings in motion for you. His blessings are not an afterthought. They are part of His grand design, and they are already aligned with the good plans He has for you. These blessings are not random occurrences, but steps along the journey that will take you closer to the life He has ordained for you. You may not see the full picture right now, but know this: every blessing God has planned for you is a step toward the fulfillment of His purpose for your life. Embrace this truth. Understand that each moment of your life, every blessing that comes your way, is part of a larger divine plan. Your life is not a series of disconnected events. Each day, each opportunity, each challenge, and each blessing is divinely orchestrated to help you fulfill your God-given destiny. So as you begin this year, I encourage you to look beyond the surface of your circumstances and see God's hand in everything. Trust that His blessings are in motion, and that everything you encounter is part of His plan to bring you into a greater understanding of His purpose for your life. His blessings are not random, they are deliberate, and they are designed to help you grow, to help you succeed, and to help you fulfill the purpose for which you were created. There is incredible power in the words we speak. Our words have the ability to shape our reality, to create circumstances, and to align us with God's will for our lives. In the beginning, God created the world with His words. He spoke light into existence, separated the waters, and called forth life. As His image bearers, we too have been given the ability to speak and create. The power of declaration is a spiritual law that operates on the same principles of divine creativity. When we declare God's blessings over our lives, we are speaking in alignment with His will, and we invite His favor, His provision, and His supernatural power into our circumstances. The Bible is full of examples of the power of words. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and Jesus Himself spoke words of authority that changed lives and circumstances. The power of declaration is not just about speaking positive affirmations or wishful thinking, it is about declaring the truth of God's promises over your life. When you speak God's words, you are participating in the very process of creation. You are aligning yourself with the divine will of God, and you are inviting His blessings to manifest in your life. The words we speak reveal what is in our hearts. Jesus said, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks," Matthew 12:34. Our declarations reflect the state of our faith. If we declare doubt, fear, and negativity, we are aligning ourselves with the enemy's plans rather than God's. But when we declare God's promises and blessings, we are positioning ourselves to receive everything that He has planned for us. Our declarations become a way of demonstrating our faith and trust in God. Faith-filled declarations are not about simply repeating a set of words. They are an act of trust in God's word and in His ability to perform what He has said. When you declare that you are blessed, that you are healed, that you are provided for, you are agreeing with God's word and activating it in your life. This is not about ignoring your reality, but about speaking a higher truth over your situation. Your words become a tool to bring the invisible into the visible, to call things that are not as though they are. Through your words, you align your circumstances with God's perfect plan for your life. The act of declaring God's blessings is also an act of humility. It is a recognition that God is the source of all that we need, and that we cannot rely on our own strength, wisdom, or resources. When you speak His promises over your life, you are acknowledging His sovereignty and His provision. You are saying, "I trust you, Lord. I believe in your word, and I know that your blessings are already in motion for me." This declaration of faith invites God to move on your behalf and to make His blessings manifest in your life. One of the most powerful things you can do as you begin this year is to speak blessings over your life every day. Wake up in the morning and declare that you are blessed with wisdom, with peace, with favor, and with prosperity. Speak over your health, your relationships, your work, and your finances. Declare that you are walking in God's perfect will and that His blessings are following you. The more you speak these words, the more you will believe them, and the more you will begin to see them manifest in your life. It's important to note that declarations should not be a mere ritual or routine. They should be a heartfelt act of faith, deeply rooted in the promises of God. When you speak, believe that what you declare is coming to pass. Trust that your words are creating a path for God's blessings to flow into your life. It is not enough to speak blessings once and forget about them. You must continuously declare them, even when circumstances seem contrary. The more you speak, the more you build your faith, and the more you invite God's blessing into your reality. This year, commit to using the power of your words to transform your life. Speak blessings over your health, your relationships, your career, and your dreams. Align your speech with God's promises and watch as those blessings begin to unfold. Don't wait for your circumstances to change before you speak the blessing. Declare it first and let your words lead the way for God's blessing to manifest. Your words are a tool that God has given you to align yourself with His divine will and to bring His supernatural blessings into your life. Through faith-filled declarations, you will not only see your reality change, but you will also walk in the fullness of the abundant life that God has promised you. When we think about blessings, it's easy to assume that they are ours to keep, to hold, and to enjoy at our leisure. But in reality, blessings are not possessions, they are a trust. God, in His infinite wisdom and generosity, chooses to bless us. But those blessings are given with the understanding that we are responsible for how we manage them. God blesses us not just for our own benefit, but so that we can steward those blessings in a way that honors Him and furthers His kingdom. How we steward God's blessings will determine whether we experience multiplication or whether we squander the very gifts He has given us. In the parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14-30, Jesus illustrates the concept of stewardship by telling the story of a master who entrusted his servants with varying amounts of money before leaving on a journey. The servants who wisely invested their talents saw their blessings multiply, while the servant who buried his talent in fear and neglect saw his blessing wasted. This parable teaches us a crucial lesson: blessings are not to be hoarded or misused. They are given to us with the expectation that we will use them wisely and multiply them. When God blesses you with something, whether it's a gift, a resource, an opportunity, or even time, He expects you to be a good steward of it. Stewardship goes beyond mere management. It's about taking responsibility and exercising wisdom in how we handle what God has given us. To steward God's blessings well means to use them in ways that align with His purposes, to invest them into areas that will bear fruit, and to recognize that nothing we have is truly ours. Everything we possess belongs to God, and He has entrusted us with it for a season. Whether it is our finances, our talents, our time, or our relationships, everything is a resource that we are responsible for managing according to God's will. Stewardship is also about faithfulness. It's easy to look at our blessings and think we can use them however we please. But true stewardship involves recognizing that every blessing is a gift from God, meant to be used for His glory. This faithfulness extends to all areas of our lives. When God blesses us with resources, we should be intentional about how we use them. Are we using our finances to build His kingdom? Are we using our talents to serve others? Are we being good stewards of our time, prioritizing what is most important in God's eyes? One of the key principles of stewardship is gratitude. The more we acknowledge that everything we have comes from God, the more we will be inclined to use our blessings in ways that honor Him. The blessings in our lives are not a result of our own striving, but a reflection of God's goodness. When we understand that the resources we possess are gifts from God, it changes the way we view them. We no longer see them as possessions that belong to us, but as tools that we must use wisely and generously. Another crucial aspect of stewardship is the willingness to multiply what God has entrusted to us. Just as the faithful servants in the parable of the talents were commended for multiplying their resources, we too are called to do the same. The blessings we receive are not meant to remain stagnant or be buried. They are meant to grow and increase. The way we steward God's blessings determines whether they will remain small or whether they will multiply. If we take care of what God has given us, whether it is our money, our relationships, or our time, we will see that God will bless us with more to manage. But if we neglect, misuse, or squander what we have, we risk losing the very blessings that were given to us. God's blessings are also a test of our faithfulness. When we show that we are good stewards, He will entrust us with more. This principle of multiplication is evident throughout Scripture. In Luke 16:10, Jesus says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." If you prove faithful with the small things, God will entrust you with bigger and greater things. Your faithfulness in stewarding what you have now opens the door for God to bless you with more in the future. The process of stewardship also involves accountability. One day we will each give an account for how we have managed the blessings God has entrusted to us. Just as the servants in the parable were called to give an account for how they used their talents, we too will stand before God and give an account for how we have used the blessings He has given us. This thought should humble us and inspire us to use our resources wisely. It's not just about how we live for ourselves, but about how we live for the glory of God and the advancement of His kingdom. This year, take time to reflect on the blessings that God has entrusted to you. Acknowledge that they are not your possessions, but a trust from God. Ask yourself, how am I stewarding the blessings in my life? Am I using them to honor God, to serve others, and to multiply His kingdom? Am I being faithful in the small things, knowing that they will lead to greater blessings? When you take responsibility for your blessings and use them according to God's will, you will see those blessings multiply in ways that far exceed anything you could imagine. Be faithful, be wise, and be intentional in how you steward God's blessings, and watch as He continues to entrust you with more. To experience the fullness of God's blessings, it is essential to live in alignment with His divine order. This means understanding that true prosperity and peace are not merely about material gain or external success, but about aligning every area of your life with God's principles. God's divine order is the framework through which His blessings flow. When you live in harmony with His design, your life is positioned to receive the fullness of His provision, favor, and peace. This alignment involves every aspect of your being, your heart, mind, and actions. When all of these areas are aligned with God's will, blessings naturally follow. God's divine order is rooted in His perfect wisdom, and it is a framework that has been established for the flourishing of His creation. It is not just a set of rules or laws, but a divine pattern for life that, when followed, unlocks the doors to God's favor and blessings. But in order to experience these blessings, you must first recognize that God's way is the best way. His divine order is not arbitrary, it is the design through which true success and fulfillment are found. Living in alignment with God's divine order begins with the heart. Your heart represents the core of your being, the place from which your desires, motivations, and intentions flow. Proverbs 4:23 warns us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The condition of your heart determines the direction of your life. If your heart is aligned with God's principles, loving Him, seeking His will, and desiring to live according to His word, then your actions and decisions will follow suit. Aligning your heart with God's order means that you place His desires above your own, seeking His kingdom and righteousness first. This inner alignment is the foundation for experiencing the prosperity and peace that only He can provide. Next, alignment involves the mind. The Bible tells us to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, Romans 12:2. Your mind is the battlefield where thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes are formed. When you align your mind with God's word, you are renewing your thinking to reflect His truth. This involves rejecting worldly mindsets such as fear, doubt, and self-sufficiency, and replacing them with thoughts that reflect faith, trusting God's provision and His promises. Aligning your mind with divine order means that your perspective is shaped by God's truth rather than by the world's standards. It means seeing your circumstances through the lens of faith and trusting that God's plans for you are always good. The third aspect of alignment is your actions. Alignment with God's divine order is not just about internal transformation, but also about external obedience. James 1:22 reminds us, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Your actions must reflect the principles you believe in. If your heart and mind are aligned with God's will, your actions will naturally follow. This means making decisions that reflect God's values, such as kindness, integrity, honesty, and humility. It means prioritizing the things of God, serving others, being a good steward of the resources He has given you, and living in a way that honors Him. True prosperity comes when your actions align with God's divine order, allowing you to be a vessel through which His blessings can flow. When you align your heart, mind, and actions with God's divine order, you begin to experience His peace. This peace is not the absence of challenges or difficulty, but the deep assurance that you are living in harmony with God's will. It is the peace that surpasses all understanding, the peace that enables you to stand firm in the face of adversity, knowing that God is in control and that He is working everything out for your good. This peace is a byproduct of living in alignment with divine order. When your life is in sync with God's will, there is a deep sense of peace that comes from knowing you are walking in the path He has set for you. Moreover, living in alignment with divine order unlocks prosperity. Prosperity is not just about financial abundance, though that can certainly be a part of it. True prosperity encompasses wholeness in every area of life: spiritual, emotional, relational, and physical. When you align with God's order, your relationships prosper, your health flourishes, and your work is blessed. God's divine order is a pattern for living that produces fruit in every area of your life. The blessings of peace, provision, and purpose will begin to overflow when you align your life with His divine design. Living in alignment with God's divine order also positions you to be a blessing to others. God's purpose for you is never just about you. It's about using the blessings He gives you to advance His kingdom and to bless others. When your life is aligned with His will, you become a conduit through which His blessings flow to the world around you. This alignment enables you to live a life of impact, to use your gifts and resources for God's glory, and to influence those around you with His love and truth. As you begin this year, take time to evaluate the areas of your life where you may not be fully aligned with God's divine order. Ask God to reveal areas where your heart, mind, or actions may be out of sync with His will. Align yourself with His truth and allow His divine order to guide every decision, every relationship, and every aspect of your life. When you do, you will experience the prosperity, peace, and purpose that come from living in harmony with God's perfect plan for your life. Faith is the key that unlocks the storehouse of God's blessings. It is the essential ingredient in receiving all that God has prepared for us. Many times we can be tempted to focus on what we think we deserve or what we have worked for, but in God's economy, blessings are not based on our worthiness or performance, they are based on His grace. Faith is the bridge between the promises of God and the manifestation of those promises in our lives. It is through faith that we position ourselves to receive God's abundant blessings, and it is faith that leads us into the fullness of His provision and purpose. In Hebrews 11:6, the Bible reminds us, without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. Faith is not just about believing that God exists, it's about trusting in His ability to provide, to lead, and to fulfill His promises. It is a belief that God is not only able, but that He desires to bless us abundantly, and that His grace is more than sufficient to meet all of our needs. God's blessings are not given based on our own efforts or merit. If that were the case, no one would qualify to receive God's best. We cannot earn His blessings through our work, our righteousness, or our good deeds. Rather, God's blessings are a gift freely given to those who trust in His goodness and grace. When we have faith, we acknowledge that our blessings are not the result of our striving, but of God's love and mercy. This understanding shifts our focus from striving to simply trusting in God's provision and timing. Faith is also about believing in God's character. It's not just about asking for blessings, but about trusting that God knows what is best for us, and that He will provide in His perfect timing. Sometimes blessings don't come in the way or at the time we expect, but faith allows us to trust in God's sovereignty and to believe that His plans for us are always good. Faith says, even if I don't understand the way or the timing, I trust that God is working on my behalf and His blessing is coming. Jesus emphasized the importance of faith in receiving blessings throughout His ministry. In Matthew 9:29, He tells two blind men, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." This statement reveals the role faith plays in the manifestation of God's blessings. These men were healed not because they deserved it, but because of their faith. Faith is what activated the blessing they received. In another instance, Jesus says, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains, Matthew 17:20. This highlights that the size of our faith is not as important as the object of our faith, God Himself. It's not about having perfect or enormous faith, it's about trusting in a God who is faithful and whose promises are always true. When we trust God, we open ourselves up to receive His blessings. Faith is not passive, it is active and expectant. It is believing that God will do what He has promised, and it is taking steps in accordance with that belief. Faith is not merely a mental assent to God's promises, but a lifestyle that reflects trust in His goodness. When we believe that God will bless us, we begin to act in ways that reflect that belief. We step forward in obedience, knowing that God will provide for us as we follow His guidance. Another aspect of faith is the ability to trust God even when we cannot see the outcome. Faith calls us to trust in God's ability to bring blessings into our lives even when the circumstances appear contrary. It is easy to trust when everything is going well, but true faith is demonstrated in the face of uncertainty and challenges. It is during those times that our faith is tested and refined, leading us into a deeper trust in God's faithfulness. The Apostle Paul said in 2 Corinthians 5:7, "For we live by faith, not by sight." This is a reminder that we do not rely on our own understanding or the visible circumstances. We rely on God's promises and His character. One of the greatest examples of faith leading to blessings is found in the life of Abraham. God promised Abraham that He would make him the father of many nations, but Abraham had to believe in that promise despite his old age and the apparent impossibility of the situation. Abraham's faith, even in the face of challenges, led to the fulfillment of God's promise, and he became the father of nations as God had promised. Romans 4:20-21. This story reminds us that even when God's promises seem impossible, faith unlocks the blessings that God has prepared for us. Faith also teaches us to rely on God's grace. Sometimes we may feel unworthy of the blessings God has promised. We might feel that we haven't done enough to deserve His favor. But God's blessings are not based on what we deserve, they are based on His grace. Grace is unmerited favor, and it is through faith that we receive this grace. When we trust in God's grace, we understand that He blesses us not because of our own worthiness, but because of His love and mercy. This realization frees us from the pressure to earn God's blessings and encourages us to rest in His goodness. This year, as you seek God's blessings, remember that faith is the key that unlocks the storehouse of His blessings. It's not about what you deserve or have earned, but about trusting in God's grace, goodness, and provision. Believe that God is faithful to fulfill His promises and trust that He will lead you into every blessing He has prepared for you. When you place your faith in Him, you position yourself to receive blessings beyond measure, blessings that will empower you to live a life of purpose, joy, and impact. God's blessings are not given to us solely for our personal pleasure or comfort, but to fulfill a greater purpose. While it's true that God delights in blessing His children and wants us to experience joy, His blessings are always connected to a larger divine plan, His kingdom purposes. When God blesses us, He does so with the intention that we will use those blessings to further His work on earth, to bring glory to His name, and to bless others. This understanding shifts our perspective on success. It's no longer about accumulating wealth, status, or power for our own sake, but about using what we have been given to make a lasting impact for God's glory. The Bible makes it clear that God blesses us not just for ourselves, but so that we can be a blessing to others. In Genesis 12:2-3, God tells Abraham, "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." God's covenant with Abraham was not just about blessing him, but about using him as a conduit to bless the entire world. This principle applies to us today. When God blesses us, it is so that we can be a blessing to others and advance His kingdom on earth. Your success, wealth, and resources are not solely for your enjoyment, they are tools for fulfilling God's purpose. God is not opposed to His children living in abundance, but He wants us to recognize that abundance is meant to serve a higher calling. Jesus Himself taught this in the parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14-30. The servants who wisely invested their talents were rewarded, while the one who buried his talent was rebuked. The message is clear: God blesses us with resources and opportunities, not just for our own benefit, but to use them wisely and purposefully. We are stewards of the blessings God has entrusted to us, and He expects us to use them for His purposes, to serve others, to meet needs, and to expand His kingdom. The blessings God gives us are meant to be used for the advancement of His kingdom. This means using your talents, your influence, and your resources in ways that align with God's will and bring glory to His name. In 1 Peter 4:10, we are reminded, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Whether it's your financial resources, your skills, your time, or your relationships, God has given you these blessings to steward them for His glory. When you align your success with God's purposes, your life becomes a vehicle through which His blessings flow to others. Living with a purpose-driven mindset changes the way you view your blessings. Instead of focusing solely on personal gain, you begin to see your success as an opportunity to make a difference. Your blessings become tools for building God's kingdom, meeting the needs of those around you, and contributing to the greater good. This perspective enables you to live a life that is not self-centered, but others-centered. You recognize that every blessing you receive is an opportunity to be a blessing to others. For example, if God blesses you with financial prosperity, it is not just for you to accumulate wealth or enjoy luxury, but to use those resources to bless others in need, support kingdom work, and contribute to causes that align with God's heart. If God blesses you with influence and leadership, it is not for you to build your own empire, but to lead with humility and integrity, to guide others toward God's purpose, and to make decisions that honor Him. When we understand that God blesses us for a greater purpose, we live with a sense of responsibility and intentionality. This understanding of blessings for purpose also helps us navigate the challenges and setbacks we may face. When we realize that our blessings are not just for personal pleasure, we understand that our success is not only about us. It is about fulfilling God's calling on our lives. Even when we face difficulties, we can trust that God will provide what we need to continue fulfilling His purposes. Our challenges become opportunities to demonstrate our faith and to grow in trust that God will supply everything we need to accomplish His will. Jesus modeled this life of purpose-driven blessing. His life was the ultimate example of using blessings for the advancement of God's kingdom. Though He was the Son of God, He did not come to be served, but to serve and give His life as a ransom for many. Mark 10:45. Jesus used His power, His influence, and His life to serve others, to heal, to teach, and ultimately to bring salvation to humanity. He did not live for His own pleasure, but for the purpose of glorifying the Father and fulfilling the divine plan of redemption. As followers of Christ, we are called to live in the same way. We are called to use our blessings, whether they are material, spiritual, or relational, as tools to fulfill God's purpose on earth. This requires a shift in mindset. It requires moving from a mentality of entitlement and self-centeredness to one of humility and service. When we embrace this purpose-driven mindset, we begin to see that our success is not just a personal achievement, but a means to serve others, to build the kingdom of God, and to bring glory to His name. This year, as you receive God's blessings, remember that they are not just for your enjoyment, but for the fulfillment of a higher purpose. Ask God to show you how to use your blessings to bless others, to advance His kingdom, and to live a life that reflects His love and grace. As you align your heart with God's purposes, you will not only experience His favor, but you will also make a lasting impact on the world around you. Your blessings will become a powerful testimony of God's goodness and His desire to use you for His glory. As we stand on the threshold of this new year, I challenge you to understand that the blessings of God are not mere gifts to be received and hoarded. They are divine tools entrusted to you to fulfill a higher purpose. God is not merely interested in blessing you for your own comfort, but for His kingdom to be advanced through your life. Every blessing He gives you carries with it the responsibility to steward it wisely, to align your heart, mind, and actions with His divine order, and to use it for His glory. Faith is the key that unlocks God's storehouse of blessings, and through faith, you position yourself to receive the fullness of what He has promised. But as you walk in that blessing, remember this truth: God blesses you not for your pleasure, but for His purpose. Your success is not for self-exaltation, but for kingdom expansion. Every moment of this year is an opportunity to live in alignment with God's divine plan, to trust in His timing, and to embrace His grace, knowing that His blessings are meant to overflow into the lives of others. Understand that your life, your purpose, your very being is part of God's greater design. Your success is not about you, it is about what God wants to accomplish through you. As you step into this year, I encourage you to walk boldly in the understanding that your blessings are a trust to be used for His will, for His glory, and for the transformation of this world. So begin your year with God's blessing. Speak it, live it, and understand that as you align your life with His divine order, you will not only experience prosperity and peace, but you will also become a conduit through which God's blessings flow to others. This is your time. This is your season. Embrace the fullness of what God has prepared for you and live with purpose, knowing that His blessings will lead you to a destiny far greater than you ever imagined.